and welcome to Imagine This Stories. Are you ready to hear a fun Bible story? You may have heard this one before, but not like this. So relax, kick off your shoes, and for the next few minutes, imagine this. A tree, a lot of money, some nasties, and a meal. Do you know what your name means? If your name is Maisie, it means pearl. If your name is Amelia, it means to strive or excel. If your name is Daniel, it means God is my judge. And if your name is River, it means, a flowing body of water like a river. In the Bible, moms and dads often thought a long time before naming their kids. Names were important to them. In today's story, we're going to need to come up with a name for you. This story takes place a long time ago. What names were popular then? If you were a girl, maybe Mary, Hannah, Leah, Naomi, or Rachel. If you were a boy, maybe Aaron, Thomas, Caleb, Jacob, or Daniel. What name should we choose? I'm going to say Adriel. Come on, it's a cool name. It means God is my master. And I figure it's a cool sounding name for a girl or a boy. So hello, Adriel. How are you today? Oh, you're tired? Why is that? Why do you imagine you're so tired? I imagine you're so tired because you didn't get enough sleep last night. Pretty smart, huh? I imagine you could not sleep because you have a window right over your bed and there were people out and about all night making noise. Well, you really shouldn't complain. You do live in a nice city, Jericho. Now you may be thinking, wait. Didn't the walls come tumbling down around Jericho? Yes, they did. But that is a different story for a different day. This is the new, rebuilt Jericho. To be fair, it's not exactly on top of where the old one used to be. It's about a mile away from where it was. But this new Jericho is a great place to live. Yes, you do live in the desert, but it's considered an oasis. It's surrounded by palm trees and has lots of freshwater springs. A lot of people pass through here, probably why it was so loud last night. And there's a big market where you can buy all sorts of wonderful things. Did you know that Herod the Great built his winter palace near here? The area is that nice. Oh, you did know that? Well, good for you. A lot of wealthy people live in Jericho. Do you imagine that in today's story, you're from one of those rich, wealthy families? I imagine you are. I imagine that you have a mom and a dad, a younger brother, and 2 younger sisters. Because you're the oldest, a lot of responsibility falls on you. Take today, for example. You're supposed to go to the market by yourself to get some spices. You're supposed to buy cumin, rue, saffron, and coriander. The cumin, saffron, and coriander are ingredients in tonight's dinner, and the rue is for your brother's cough. You're glad you don't have a cough. That stuff is nasty, and it makes your tongue tingle. Yeah. Your mom hands you some coins, and you head out to the market. It's a sunny day, and even though it's still early, you're starting to sweat. Too bad deodorant hasn't been invented yet.
Ooh.
As you're walking, you notice some beggars sitting near the wall of the city. They're holding small bowls in their laps while calling out asking for money. Because your city has a lot of rich people in it, there are also a lot of very poor people here begging for money. Today, there are a lot of beggars, and you wonder why that is. As you pass by 2 men who can't walk, you hear them talking. They are telling a woman who can't see about a man named Jesus who healed a blind man named Bartimaeus just the day before, right here in Jericho. That's another story for another day, but it's still good to know. You stop to listen. One of the men notices you and turns and asks you for some money. You don't have much extra, but you have some, so you give him a few coins. Your parents taught you to be generous. Do you imagine the man is grateful, thankful for the money you gave him? I do. You continue on to the market. There are so many people around. You finally reach the stall that sells spices. You tell the woman that you want cumin, rue, saffron, and, oh, right, coriander. She hands you a small package containing your order. You pay her and thank her and head back home. When you get home, your mom asks you, what took you so long? You tell her there are just so many people. Plus, you stop to listen to some beggars talking about Jesus and how he healed a blind man. Your mom gets so excited. Jesus is in town, she asked. I've heard so much about him. Some people are even saying he's the Messiah, the Son of God. Your mom grabs your hand and pulls you to the door. Let's go see if we can find him. She has a big smile on her face. You ask, what about my younger brother and sisters? Your mom says, don't worry, the servants can watch them. Wow, you are from a rich home. You and your mom walk down the street. Your mom also notices how many people are there. You're right, the city does seem more crowded than normal, she says. Before long, you notice a large group of people standing along the road up ahead. You wonder what they're looking at. As you stretch your neck out to try to see what's going on, you get bumped in the back. Hard. Hey, watch out, you say. You turn to see a short, chubby man hurrying by. He doesn't even apologize for running into you. You watch him as he disappears into the crowd up ahead. Let's go around the corner to the other side of the street and see if we can see what everyone is looking at, your mom says. You and your mom slowly push your way through the throng of people. The sun is now high in the sky, and you're really starting to sweat. So is everyone else. If only there was deodorant.
Ooh.
Your mom gives you a shove. You're about to say something to her like, Mom, what are you doing? When you realize she pushed you into a small open space next to the road. And even better, it's in the shade of a large sycamore tree. That shade feels really good. You look down the street and see a group of 5 or 6 men coming your way. People are calling out to one of the men in the group. Jesus! Jesus, are you really the Messiah? Jesus, are you here to heal us? You turn to your mom and point. Mom, there he is. There's Jesus. Your mom moves closer and takes a look. What do you imagine Jesus looks like? I imagine he looks pretty ordinary. Brownish skin, brown eyes and hair. Not too tall, but not too short. Ordinary. Jesus continues to walk towards you. The crowds are pressing in. People are straining to see Jesus, calling out, sweating, and then, all of a sudden, Jesus stops walking. He stops right in front of where you are. You can't believe it. You look at your mom. She's smiling at Jesus, and he's smiling back at her. He looks so kind. Then, he looks up into the tree that you're standing beneath. At first, you can't figure out why. You look up. You see leaves and branches. You look at Jesus again. He's still looking up. You look up again. What do you imagine you see? I imagine you see sandals, and then legs, and then an entire person. You look closer. You do see an entire person. And you know who it is? It's that man who ran into you a little while ago. That rude guy who didn't even say he was sorry when he nearly knocked you to the ground. All of a sudden, you hear Jesus talking. Zacchaeus, Jesus says. How does he even know that man's name? Zacchaeus, the man in the tree, looks surprised too. His eyes are spread wide and his mouth is open in shock. Jesus speaks again. Zacchaeus, come down from the tree. I'm staying with you today. Come on now, let's go. A moment later, the little man in the tree scurries down. You realize he must have had a pretty good view from the street up there. Pretty handy for this little man. Zacchaeus leads Jesus and his friends away to his house. People are speechless. They don't understand what just happened.
Did Jesus just see a man at a tree and say he wanted to eat with him?
Asked one man.
Yes, said a woman, but not just any man. Zacchaeus.
Are you kidding me?
Said the man.
Zacchaeus? Why would Jesus want to spend time with him? He's a no-good, dirty, rotten tax collector, a chief tax collector, no less.
You look at your mom confused. Your mom leans over and explains that Zacchaeus collects taxes for the Romans. But isn't Zacchaeus a Jewish man like us? You ask your mom. And we Jews don't like the Romans because they're so terrible to us. Your mom nods. Unfortunately, Zacchaeus does his job because he makes a lot of money doing it. More than he should, actually. What do you mean, you ask? Well, let's say we owe $5 in taxes. Zacchaeus would tell us that we owe $9 and then keep the extra $4 for himself. Now your eyes get big. What do you imagine you say when you hear that? I imagine you say something like, he is a no-good, dirty, rotten tax collector. Or maybe you're nicer than that, and you just say, wow, he's not very kind. Either way, you are not impressed with this man. You ask your mom why in the world Jesus would say he wanted to eat with Zacchaeus. Your mom gets a funny look on her face and then grins. She grabs your hand and leads you down the street in the same direction Jesus went. Mom, you say, where are we going? Your mom doesn't answer. Mom, you say again. She smiles at you and keeps pulling you down the road. A few minutes later, you reach a large gate. You can tell somebody really rich lives here. Your mom knocks on the gate. Mom, what are you doing? Trust me, she says. Before long, a servant approaches and says, may I help you?
Oh, hello, Hannah. That's your mom's name. Oh, and Adriel, how big you've gotten.
You study the gatekeeper. He looks familiar. Then you remember, oh, he was the gatekeeper at our house. Mom, what's going on, you ask? Whose house is this? Your mom smiles and says, oh, this is Zacchaeus' house. What? You yell much louder than you intended to. Your mom smiles at the gatekeeper and says, we were wondering if maybe we could just pop in for a quick minute.
Oh, I see, said the gatekeeper. You're here to get a peek at Jesus, I assume.
Yes, your mom says. What do you imagine the gatekeeper does? If you imagine he opens the gate, you're correct. He opens the gate and says, follow me. He leads you around to the back side of the house and points to an arched window.
If you sit below this window, you can hear everything that's going on inside.
Thank you, said your mother. You and your mom get comfortable just as Jesus and the others enter the room next to where you are. They're talking and laughing, although some of them seem a little nervous. Once they're seated, the room gets quiet. You peep and can barely see Zacchaeus. He's sitting across from Jesus. His eyes are looking down at his plate. He seems to take a deep breath, look up, and then say, Sir, from now on, I will give half my wealth to the poor. You look around at his huge house full of lovely things. He's going to give half of all this away? You wonder. Zacchaeus keeps talking. And if I find I have overcharged anyone on his taxes, I will give him back 4 times as much, says Zacchaeus.
Wait,
you whisper to your mom.
Is he saying that if he charged someone $10 more than he should have, he'll give them back $40?
Your mom nods. You're amazed.
Wow.
Then Zacchaeus starts to speak. You can't see his face, but you can hear the happiness in his voice. Zacchaeus, he says, you were lost and now you're found. You are just the type of person I came to save. The men in the room all begin to talk at once. Your mom says, it's time to go. But you don't want to go. You want to hear more. to understand why Jesus would come here and to understand what Jesus just meant. But you are a good and obedient kid, so you follow your mom out without too much complaining. When you both reach the street, you see a crowd gathered near Zacchaeus' gate. They're saying things like, "Jesus can't be the Son of God if he would eat here," and "Jesus must not be the Messiah because Zacchaeus is a sinner and the Messiah would never spend time with him." Once you and your mom get a little way down the street, you see a woman sitting under the tree where Zacchaeus was, where you were just a little while ago. You notice that she is holding a bowl in her lap. She's a beggar. Your mom stops and puts some coins into the bowl. The woman says, "Thank you." Your mom says, "You're welcome." The woman then asks, "Did you see Jesus?" "We did." "Isn't he wonderful?" "What do you mean?" your mom asks. "Here is a man who is also the Son of God, who stops in his tracks to talk to a man who has done so much wrong to so many people." "I mean, I guess that is wonderful," says your mom. "It really is. Jesus is like a doctor," says the woman. "If you're healthy, you don't need to go to a doctor, do you?" "Well, no," says your mom. "No, you go to the doctor if you're sick, if you need help. Jesus is here for all of us who need help. Everyone who knows that we have done things that God doesn't like, and we need God to forgive us. And if Jesus will forgive and love Zacchaeus, well, I know he can forgive and love me too." Your mom stops and thinks. You do too. You both decide that is wonderful. Jesus loves everyone and will forgive anyone who turns to him, no matter what they've done. You and your mom head home. It's been a long day, but a good one. You are excited you got to see Jesus. You're glad you got to see Zacchaeus change his ways. And you're hoping you'll get to see Jesus again soon. The end. I hope you enjoyed today's story. Want to hear something cool? Remember at the beginning of the story, I asked you if you knew what your name meant? The name Zacchaeus means pure or innocent. That's kind of crazy, huh? But when Jesus looked up at Zacchaeus in that tree, he didn't see him as the dirty, rotten tax collector like everyone else did. Jesus saw Zacchaeus as the man God created him to be. He loved him, just like he loves you and me. And Jesus will always forgive us when we come to him and make us pure and innocent in God's sight. I hope you enjoyed this story today. If you want to read the story of Zacchaeus for yourself, you'll find it in the Bible in the book of Luke, chapter 19. If you don't have a Bible, reach out and let me know, and I'll see what I can do. Or just reach out if you have any questions about today's story or want to say hello. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Imagine This Stories. Also, I would love it if you could leave me a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and share this podcast with others who might enjoy it. Thanks again. And I look forward to talking to you again as we imagine this.